What the heck was this book? Unnecessary and just kind of like, why is this happening? Completely shocked. I could not stand him. Hey, how's it going? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Gabby, and today we're going to be doing another reading vlog. And in today's reading vlog, I'm going to be doing another one of those reading vlogs where I can't stop reading until I find a 5-star read. And in this video, I can only read books that are some of my most anticipated books of the year that have come out recently. I have made a reading vlog like this 2 times before. I did it twice last year, and it was so much fun. And I wanted to do it again because I just recently made a video where I read books that you think that I would give 5 stars, and I found so much success from doing that video that I was like, how about we just keep the good vibes and the 5 stars rolling in the month of June? And so I thought maybe it would be fun to do another one of these vlogs where I can't stop reading until I find a 5-star read. You might be wondering if I have like a set TBR for this video because I don't know how long this reading vlog is gonna go for because I don't know when I'm gonna get the 5-star read. But I do have some books that I'm hoping to get to this week. Some of them include some upcoming book club reads. Listen for the Lie is my current booktube pick for the month of June, so I'm hoping to get to this one at some point this week. I'd also really love to read Darling Girls by Sally Hepworth because this is one that I'm going to be reading for my friend Savannah's book club that I'm going to be co-hosting in the month of June. So it would be cool to get to some of my book club reads in this vlog. I also would like to get to some new romance books that I'm really excited about. I think a novel love story is going to be like my Hail Mary. Like if none of the other books that I'm reading are 5 stars, this is the one that I'm hoping could be 5 stars. But I think I might actually start off this vlog by reading the rom-commers. This is the new one by Catherine Center, and this is the one that I have the most doubt about being a 5-star out of all of these, just because Catherine Center in the past has been very like hit or miss for me, but this is one that just sounds so cute that I'm really excited about. And then I don't know if I'm gonna have time to get to it in this vlog or not, but I just got The Eyes Are the Best Part in the mail, and like, dude, this book is stunning. This is a new horror book that I am so freaking excited about. I actually got my copy from Aardvark Book Club, and so I'm hoping maybe I can include this book. Maybe this one is gonna end up being a 5-star for me. I don't know. So those are some of the books that I'm thinking about reading for this reading vlog. But before we do jump into the reading vlog, I just wanted to take a second to thank a new sponsor, and that is ZBiotics, because I know that we all have busy lives and we do not have the time to be laying around on the couch not feeling well from having a few drinks from the night before. And so ZBiotics is the answer that we've been looking for. ZBiotics pre-alcohol probiotic is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic, and it was invented by PhD scientists to tackle the rough mornings after a night of drinking. So when you drink, the alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in your gut, and it's actually this byproduct and not the dehydration that is responsible for why you feel terrible the next day. ZBiotics produces an enzyme that helps to break that byproduct down. And just remember to drink this probiotic before drinking alcohol, to drink responsibly, and to get a good night's rest to feel your best tomorrow. I am not the biggest drinker myself because I always dread that feeling of like waking up and not feeling very well the next day. And that's why I think ZBiotics has been such a game changer, because now I don't have to worry as much about not feeling good the next day after drinking. Really didn't think that drinking a little bottle of this size would make such a big difference, but it really made a big difference. 4th of July weekend is just around the corner, so stock up on your pre-alcohol now so that you can enjoy the summer barbecues and the family vacations and the next day responsibilities too. So you can go to zbiotics.com/gabbyreads, or you can scan the QR code on the screen to get 15% off your first order when you use my code gabbyreads at checkout. You can also sign up for a subscription using my code so that you can stay prepared no matter the time. ZBiotics is backed with 100% money back guarantee, so if you're not satisfied for whatever reason, they will refund your money, no questions asked. So remember to head to zbiotics.com/gabbyreads and use my code gabbyreads at checkout for 15% off. And thank you so much to ZBiotics for sponsoring today's video and our good times. And now let's get to the reading vlog. Hello, hi, I'm at the gas station, but I wanted to update you because I have started on the rom-commers. I got about 75 pages into this last night before I went to bed, and so far I'm really enjoying it. I do tend to love, you know, romance books that follow writers, and so I'm already kind of loving that about this. And so in this story, we're following this character named Emma, and she is pretty much the only responsible caretaker for her father. He had like an accident a few years ago, and now he's almost completely disabled, and like he needs like a full-time caretaker. And so that's been her life for the past couple of years. But then she gets this opportunity because, you know, she's a writer, and she's like primarily a romance writer. And this guy named Charlie Yates, he's like one of her favorite screenwriters of all time. And so she gets this opportunity to ghostwrite for this guy Charlie because he's actually working on a rom-com, like a romantic screenplay, and he like has no idea what he's doing because she ends up reading the screenplay and it's like completely terrible, and she knows that she can ghostwrite it to make it better. And so she gets this job opportunity and she like flies out to LA to go and meet him. And the guy that like set it up is this guy Logan that's like her ex-boyfriend from like high school or something, but like they're really close friends now, and he ends up working for both of them. So he's like, he has the connection to this guy. But it's funny because when she gets to LA, she realizes that this guy Charlie Yates has like no idea who she even is, and like he didn't even know about this setup. It's kind of like grumpy and like short with her right away, you know, because he doesn't even know that this was something that his agent even had in mind. But I don't know, so far the setup is kind of interesting. Like, I like the idea that he's gonna be like open to like giving her a chance to help him rewrite the rom-com, and I like that she's like really straightforward with him, being like, yo, this sucks, like this is not good. I do like the story of her so far and how she's like taking care of her sick dad, and I do like that there's already a little bit of tension between them. Not so much like hate to love, but it almost is kind of giving that, because he thinks he's like too good to even be like speaking to her. What could she know? Because she's just some random romance writer. Like, he is an Academy Award winning writer and like he has all the credits. So like he's kind of one of those like snobby, pretentious assholes at the moment, but I just know that it's gonna be one of those books where like his feelings start to, you know, he starts to soften up to her, that kind of thing. I don't know, I'm liking it so far. You know, I am only 70 pages in, but I'm liking the writing a lot more in this one than I did in Hello Stranger. I do think it's kind of weird though that this author is kind of like mixing real life celebrities with like fictional celebrities, because there was just a scene where she like went out to dinner in LA and she saw this like really famous A-list actor that was like a fictional celebrity, and he was eating dinner with Meryl Streep, and there was like this whole scene where she like went up to Meryl Streep and was like, oh my god, I love your movies. And I'm like, I think that's so weird when authors decide to include like real life celebrities in their fictional stories with other fictional celebrities. Then I'm like, isn't it just like kind of veering on like fan fiction at this point? Like, I don't know, it was kind of weird. But anyways, today I'm out because I just dropped off some books at the library. I'm actually going to be taking, like, I have a bunch of stuff in my car that I need to go and like donate to Value Village. So I'm gonna go drive down there, and then while I'm down there, I'm gonna pick up some groceries this afternoon. I just have like a few things I need to get done, so I'm just gonna be listening to this on audio while I'm doing all of that today.
Another night, I fall in your sight. Your new eyes cut sharp like a knife. Take a moment and look all around you. I don't want you caught off guard or alarmed when I come for you. I need you to know that I would never walk away.
I am back home from what ended up being a pretty busy day out. Just finished reading the rom-commers, and like, I think at the beginning of this book, you know, like this guy Charlie was like a little bit irritating to me, but I kind of assumed it would be one of those situations where like, as you start to understand him more as a character, he starts to grow on you. And like, maybe that's the case, you know, for a lot of people that read this book. Like, maybe a lot of people eventually came around, you know, because like, I think this book has really high reviews so far on Goodreads. I think it actually just came out today or like this week. So like, it hasn't been read by that many people yet, but from what I've seen on Goodreads, this has pretty high reviews, and I'm not totally sure if I understand why, to be honest. I don't know, part of me is telling myself like I want to give this like around 2.5 stars, which is unfortunate because I thought it was an interesting setup at the beginning, and you know, I do like following writers, and I think my favorite thing about this book was like the way that they were writing this story together. I liked the behind the scenes of like them working on the story together. I also did like the main character as a protagonist. Like, I liked hearing about her story with her family and how she was holding on to a lot of guilt, especially when it came to like, you know, being a caretaker for her dad. Like, that is like a very serious thing, and I feel like there's a lot of responsibility that gets put on the person who's like the responsible caregiver for a parent who's in need. I really did like that aspect of her character and that storyline. But like, oh my god, dude, Charlie Yates, like the man in this book, I could not stand him. Like, not only was he one of those kind of like pretentious assholes who act like awards don't mean anything, he just thinks that he's like levitating above everybody else. Like, I don't know, his personality right from the jump was kind of annoying. And I feel like in some ways, you know, he definitely came around as a character, but there were still so many things, even towards like the second half of this book, where I was like, bro, what are you doing? Like, why are you like this? I feel like they had a lot of miscommunication between each other. And I hate how he would always just assume things about her and her character and like about anybody. Like, I hate the way that he thinks if you turn down an opportunity that you were given, then like clearly you just don't want it that bad. Like, clearly you just don't want to succeed. And it's like he doesn't even take a fucking minute to consider the fact that like people have different obstacles in their life. Like, there might be a reason, a valid reason why someone might have to turn down certain opportunities because of other things that are affecting their lives. Like, he's just so like one of those fucking rich, entitled people who has their head in the fucking clouds and like doesn't understand reality. Even so much later on in the book, like, I don't know, he was just really bothering me as a character. And like, yes, maybe he eventually grows and like comes around, but it was almost like too late for me. Like, I was just so turned off by his character, and I just didn't root for the romance because I couldn't really stand his character and his like beliefs. I also think for me, I don't know, the ending was a little bit cheesy, and like there was something that happened between her and her sister where there's like kind of a tense moment in their family and some shit starting to go down. And like, dude, the things that her and her sister said to each other, I was like, what the fuck? Like, where did this come from? I know there was like a little bit of tension between them because of something that was happening in the story, but I was like, holy shit, like that was so uncalled for. And like, maybe that was the point, but I just did not appreciate the way that this character started to treat her sister in the second half of this book. I was like, what the heck is her problem? I don't know. I guess I just didn't really end up loving the characters in this one. And then another thing that I wanted to mention too is that the way this book was written was very interesting to me. It almost kind of read like it was written like a debut or something, because I just find the writing style to be a little bit like immature. Not a seasoned writer would write a book this way where like the character just addresses the reader so often. Like, say for an example, like in the chapter where she has to tell us like the story about like what actually happened to her dad and like why, you know, she's like, you have to understand this part of the understory to understand the bigger picture. But instead of just like explaining it and telling us, she has to like build it up as like this thing of like, well, reader, I don't want to upset you, but like to make you understand this, you have to hear this part of the story. And then like even at the end of the book, she does the like, well, in the end, this is how things worked out. It's like, I don't know, the narration style of the way that she would just address the reader directly, it just really didn't work for me. Like, I don't know, I could have done without that. It might kind of sound like I'm nitpicking things apart at this point, but I just really thought that I would love this. I mean, that's clearly why, you know, I wanted to read this book. I thought maybe it could be a potential 5-star for me, even though looking back, I feel like this was kind of stupid for me to assume because I don't think that I've ever given this author a 5-star. Even the books that I've really enjoyed from her, like The Bodyguard is one of my favorites from this author, and I'm pretty sure I only gave that one 4 stars. I don't really know why I went into this one with such high expectations, especially considering the fact that I had DNF'd Hello Stranger from this author last year. But either way, I just thought that I would enjoy this one more than I did, especially because a lot of people really seem to be loving this one, and I want to understand. I do think though that I would recommend this book for fans of Beach Read by Emily Henry as well as The Roughest Draft, which I personally was a bigger fan of The Roughest Draft. I know I have the very unpopular opinion because I didn't care for Beach Read that much, but I feel like in a way this did remind me a little bit of Beach Read, just in the way that we're following these two authors and like they have to work together in a way, and the way that the guy's kind of an asshole who like swears he like doesn't even believe in love, but he wants to write about romance because he has something to prove. You know, it definitely kind of reminded me of Beach Read in that way, so I think if you liked those elements of Beach Read, there's a very high chance that this one could work for you too. But anyways, we are moving on to the next thing, which is exciting. Hello Hello, I am here with an update because I have started on Darling Girls. It's been a very productive day. I actually started reading this at the gym earlier today, and now I'm doing some reading sprints on Patreon, but I needed to update you because I'm already 142 pages in, and I am really enjoying this one already. I think it has such a great setup. I'm already really connecting with the characters and this author's writing. And so in this story, we're following these three characters named Jessica, Nora, and Alicia, and all three of them were foster sisters growing up. They grew up in this foster home where this woman named Miss Fairchild was the one who was taking care of them. And so the main story is taking place 25 years later when all three of these characters are adults, and they get a phone call from a detective saying that they found human remains at the foster home where they grew up. And so all three of them are like, oh shit, we have to talk about the past again. And so it's like kind of this mystery of trying to figure out like whose body remains did they find at this house and like what actually happened when they were growing up. And so the story takes place mostly in the present day, and we do get the perspective of all three sisters, but then in between their chapters in the present day, we do get some flashback chapters to when they were growing up and when they were kids and when they were first getting brought to this foster care home and like what was happening in their lives when they were kids. And this story's been very interesting so far, but also like really fucking sad, you know? Their situation in this foster care home was not good. This woman, Miss Fairchild, was literally like the fucking worst. She was like one of those people who got enjoyment off of like punishing these kids or like trying to make them feel shitty about themselves. There's already been so many like scenes of her like treating them terribly and then trying to gaslight them into thinking like it was their own fault and like different shit like that. She's like sending them mixed signals because one minute she's like, call me mommy, and then the next minute she's like, I am not your mother. And you know, she's just like one of those totally toxic parental figures. But the story's just been really interesting so far, and I feel like I am connecting a lot with all three of the sisters. I feel like they're just all written so well. There was already something that happened in the plot that I thought was like kind of shocking, but also just like really sad. I'm mostly just feeling really sad for the three of these characters and the three of these girls and like what they've had to go through. And I am really loving their bond as foster sisters and the way that they're really connecting through like the trauma that they're experiencing and like wanting to be there for each other. I also do love the way that they still have this good relationship with each other as adults, and like I don't know, I'm really liking the characters a lot. I'm connecting with this. I can't wait to see where the story goes because I'm about 40% of the way through right now. I'm still doing some sprints this afternoon while I'm on my Patreon. I'm probably going to try to finish this up today just because I'm enjoying it so much. And Rachel and Obed are out right now, so I do have the place to myself for a few hours, but hopefully I can finish this one up tonight because it's going very well so far. I have great feelings about this.
I don't wanna feel it. So I pour up inside my cup and I just sip till I can't feel it. Ooh. I know it won't solve my problem, but I know it makes a difference. One more sip and I'ma fix it. Out my body when I'm tempted. I told her one more and she heard me say you quit or she dipping. Yeah. I don't want pain no more. I don't want no more pain. I can go see no way. Look at that with no pain. See the rain coming down, but it is not purple today. Came a long way from stacking and rolling that change. And all I ever wanted was some real love. Then I ice it on my heart.
Hello, I am back with an update because I just finished reading Darling Girls. And what the heck, I really enjoyed this one. I'm about to be so annoying though right now because I don't think that this was like the perfect 5-star book for me, but I do think I'm probably gonna give this around 4.5 stars because I don't know why, I just hesitate to give this book like the full 5 stars. I don't know why when it comes to this author, Sally Hepworth, I don't think I've ever given one of her books 5 stars, but I do usually tend to enjoy her books. They're just never some of my like all-time favorites, but I do think this one is actually my favorite from this author so far, so that's really cool. I think this was such an interesting thriller. Thinking about why I don't want to give this book 5 stars, I think my only reason is because I was a lot more invested in the flashback chapters than I was in the present day chapters. Because, you know, as I mentioned, we're following 3 different sisters in the story, and we do get all of their perspectives in both the present day and in the past. And I was much more invested in the chapters from when all 3 of them were kids, as opposed to the present day. Like, the present day was interesting too, but it just wasn't nearly as interesting for me as those flashback chapters. I did see some friends on Goodreads. I saw my friend Matt. He said that he would compare this book to Strange Sally Diamond, which I would also really agree with, and that's a thriller that I actually just finished reading like literally less than a week ago. So I was like, oh my gosh, like what are the chances that I would read another thriller that I would compare to Strange Sally Diamond? Like, it definitely has a similar vibe to it. I think there was so much that I loved about this book. Like, not only were the sister relationships relationships in this book. Like, oh my god, it was done so well. I love the fact that they were foster sisters, but like the way that they just chose to protect each other and try to be there for each other, I thought it was so beautiful. And I really loved all three of their characters. Like, I connected with all three of them. I feel like for me, they were really well fleshed out and really interesting characters. And then, oh my gosh, this ending, dude, there was like a few plot twists at the ending. There was one thing that I kind of saw coming, but then the other things that I did not see coming, I was completely shocked by some of the things that happened at the end of this book. And especially, oh my gosh, the last chapter of this book is so 10 out of 10. Like, the last chapter is one of those last chapters that's gonna like make your jaw like hit the floor and you're gonna have a realization about the entire book. And like, that's great. I fucking love when authors are able to do that. Like, it's so rare in thrillers these days to get that like really satisfying final chapter that just completely knocks the socks off of you. I think this is definitely a very dark thriller in terms of like the content can be very hard to read about, you know, sometimes because you're basically reading about a lot of child abuse from adults. You're reading about adults, you know, gaslighting these young kids. You're reading about just a lot of really dark things when it comes to, you know, children. And I know that that can be really hard for some people to read. So this one definitely has a lot of trigger warnings for things like that. I would look into it if you're concerned about it. Really liked the freaking plot twist at the end of this book. Like, it surprised me, which doesn't always happen when I read thrillers these days, but this one did. It surprised me and I loved that about it. I'm so glad that I read this book this afternoon. I'm also so excited because I did end up reading this book this month for my friend Savannah. She has a book club called the Lights Out Book Club, and we're going to be discussing this book for her book club at the end of this month. I believe the live show is going to be on like June 29th or something around that time, so I'll have her channel linked down below so that you can go and check out her channel and see the live show, because I can't wait to discuss this book because I do feel like this book is going to make for such a fun book club discussion, and I'm just so happy that this book went as well as it did for me, you know, because last year I read the book The Soulmate from this author, and that one was one that I personally didn't enjoy very much. I think I gave it between like 2 and 3 stars. And then I have also read the book The Good Sister from this author, and that was another one that I actually really enjoyed. I think I gave The Good Sister 4 stars, but I think this one is definitely my favorite from this author so far, and I think it's about a 4.5 for me. So that's exciting. Oh my god, it feels so good to read another thriller that I loved. Because I have started reading Listen for the Lie. So far this thriller has been very interesting. I actually read up to page 100 last night. I feel like I'm already having kind of mixed feelings on this because there are some things that I'm really loving about this, and then there's some things that I'm already finding to be like a little bit annoying. In this story, we're following this girl named Lucy, and Lucy and this girl Savvy were really close friends. Her name's Savannah, but they call her Savvy. They grew up in this really small town in Texas, and then there was this incident where Savvy was murdered, and they believed that Lucy was the one who did it. And so now the story is taking place 5 years later, where there's this guy named Ben who's running this really popular, you know, true crime podcast that's called Listen for the Lie, and he is trying to figure out the truth on his true crime podcast. But the thing is with Lucy is that she has absolutely no memory of the night that her best friend died, and she actually has amnesia from the event. Like, she can't even remember most of the night. They were at a wedding that night. She can't remember anything about the wedding, but she swears that she did not kill her friend, even though I don't even know if she knows for sure if she didn't kill her friend. She just believes in her gut that like, I could not have been the person to have done this. And so it's interesting because Lucy herself is like a very interesting protagonist to be following, because not only do you know, not know if you can trust her own point of view because she has amnesia, she doesn't remember that night, but also like she has murderous thoughts constantly. Every time she looks at somebody, she's like, I imagine like bashing their head into the wall and like killing them. But it's like maybe she's not acting on those thoughts. Like she doesn't behave like a murderer, but she's thinking like a murderer. And so she's been a really interesting protagonist to follow so far. And in the story, she had like moved away from this small town, you know, like she's not living in Texas anymore, but her grandma calls her up and she's like, we're having a huge, you know, party for her 80th birthday. And she's like, we need you back in town. And it's kind of like a last minute thing that her family like invites her back for her grandma's birthday. And so she's returning to the small town in Texas for the first time in 5 years. And can I just say, like, her grandma already is like one of my favorite characters in this book. Her grandma is so freaking cute. I just love her so much. She's like so sassy and she has so much energy. And then I do love following Lucy as a protagonist so far. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, her perspective is getting a little repetitive and like annoying to me in a way, with like the way she keeps like thinking her murderous thoughts and like cutting herself off in her head. I don't know, sometimes I feel like Lucy's character, it's like she's written in a way where she's like trying too hard. And I've seen some people critique this book and say that it reads like a young adult book, and I can definitely see that critique, because I do think that Lucy's character, even though she's like in her 20s or 30s, I think she reads pretty young. Like, I can see that. But I do love like the small town atmosphere in this small town in Texas. I feel like that's been done really well so far. I also love the podcast elements of this, because I am listening to this on audio as well. And in between the chapters that are from Lucy's perspective, you get the actual like podcast clips from this podcast called Listen for the Lie. And the podcast is done so well on the audiobook. Like, it's really cool. It has all the sound effects. It has different voice actors. Like, it sounds like a real podcast. So I think that's a really cool element of this so far. So yeah, today I'm hoping to finish up the rest of this book on reading sprints. I'm actually going to be doing some reading sprints with my friend Katie in just a few minutes. I also, finally, today's the day I'm going to try this Ghost energy drink. I got this from the store pretty recently, and I've never tried the Ghost energy drinks before, but everybody swears that they're a great time. And so I put on the Ghost, you know, sweatshirt, the Ghosty Summer Rain sweatshirt to do this. And you know, Rachel and Obed both said that this flavor is really good. This one's the sour pink lemonade. Oh my god, I just realized that this has no sugar. So like, we'll see. Will it actually be good? Did they lie to me? Oh, wow. You know what? That is actually really interesting. I don't usually like my drinks to be too sour, but this is pretty good. Wow, I'm pretty impressed that this is no sugar, because I don't know if I'd be able to tell, to be honest. Like, usually with drinks, I can tell right away when there's no sugar, but with this, I can't really taste it, so that's pretty cool. I'm gonna have to check out more flavors of Ghost, so if you have any flavor recommendations, let me know. Hello, I'm back with an update because I just finished reading Listen for the Lie. I just finished up some reading sprints with my friend Katie, and I literally finished this within like 3 minutes of that last sprint. It was really perfect timing. And this was, I don't know, this book ended up being okay for me. It wasn't exactly what I was expecting it to be. I don't know if this is maybe because I went in with too high of expectations, because I feel like I had heard from a lot of people that like, oh my gosh, this book is so twisty and it's so crazy. You know, like this book is getting such high ratings on Goodreads, and in some ways I do understand that, because I do think this is a book that's going to appeal to like mass audiences. I just think that this book was a little bit disappointing for me in the end. I don't know, there were so many things that I did love about this book, you know, like I was talking about earlier, I loved the atmosphere in this. I thought that this book did a really good job at making this like small town in Texas. It felt very real. I loved her grandmother's character. Okay, like her grandma Beverly is by far my favorite character in the book, and I just thought she was so funny. Anytime she had a moment on the page, I just thought she was hilarious. She was cracking me up. She was so funny. I also loved the use of like the podcast elements in the story. I thought they were so well done and so cool. The audiobook was especially a cool experience because of how cool the, you know, podcast elements were. But I also think my main issue with this book really comes down to the fact that I don't usually love the trope in thrillers where like the main protagonist has amnesia about an event that has happened to them, because I just find it to be so convenient, you know, for the plot and for like the author writing it. it just ends up feeling kind of like convenient and kind of like lazy whenever it's like the main character has amnesia. She can't remember anything that happened on that night, but then it's like the memories start to come back at like the most convenient times for her. It just always bothers me in thrillers. Like, I don't know why that is. I never know if it's because it feels like unrealistic to me, which I feel like in some ways it does feel a little bit unrealistic, but it's also like I don't really know that much about amnesia, so like who am I to say if it's unrealistic or not? Like, I don't know, but it just always tends to bother me when stories involve amnesia in this way, and then it's like all of the memories come flooding back at the most convenient times for the characters. It just feels a little bit cheesy for me. I also think another thing that was cheesy about this book that I didn't need in the story is that there's this like romance subplot, you know, like happening in this book, and I just didn't need the romance. It was giving very much like, you know how Riley Sager will always have like a romance in his books where like the protagonist has to like have feelings for like the most red flag man, and you're just kind of like, why? Like, why does this need to be here? I kind of felt that way about this. Like, I can see how maybe the romance would make this book more appealing to some readers, maybe, but I personally found the romance to just be so like unnecessary and just kind of like, why is this happening? There was even one page where it was like an on-page sex scene in this book, and I'm like, am I reading a thriller or am I reading a romance? Like, I don't know. But I just didn't necessarily care for the romance in this. And then as far as like the ending goes, I just personally thought it was a little bit predictable. Like, I don't know, I thought the ending would have a little bit more twist to it. It was really just like a big reveal, and then like that was it. And I thought even the big reveal, I didn't think it was that shocking for me. And I don't know if it's just maybe because I've read so many thrillers at this point that this one just didn't feel like it was like doing anything big and different in the genre. I don't know if this will be the case for everyone, but I can see maybe people who don't read mystery thrillers that often, I can see them reading this and then really loving it because it's a fun time and it does have a few twists that you might not see coming. And I don't think it'll be true for everybody, but I think if you read a lot of mystery and thrillers, I feel like I can say that this doesn't really bring anything new to the table, at least for me. I don't know if that's going to be the same for everyone. It is a fun time, you know, like it's a fun read. It's very quick, which are all things that I personally enjoyed about it. I guess I just expected the ending to like be a little bit more twisty or to have some more reveals. I just thought this one ended up being okay. I don't know. It's probably going to be around a 3-star for me. A 3-star is not bad. Like, I wasn't super disappointed by this and it was pretty average. On to the next.
장난 아니 That's a hell 굳이 욕해서 where you find me 와리가리 I be on my own 좀 많이 시비 걸어봐 hit my line don't play me boy don't play me 장난하니 That's a hell 굳이 욕해서 where you find me 와리가리 I be on my own 좀 많이 시비 걸어봐 hit my line don't play me boy don't play me boy don't play me 나 지역을 떠나 he raise me You praising your guy, you crazy 그 미래는 버려 cause lately psychopath처럼 I've been making up broke with 바로 밑에 미쳐버린 내 머릿속에 너 모르잖아 내게 헌재 You don't know what I do up on the weekends
Hello, I wanted to update you because I have started reading The Eyes Are the Best Part. This morning I decided to come down to one of my favorite coffee shops, and this coffee shop is a bit of a drive. It's about like 30 minutes away from where I live, but it's always worth it to come down here because this is just the cutest little coffee shop. I love it so much. Sorry, let me turn off my car in case it's too loud. It's a little warm out today though, you know, it's about like a high 70 degrees today. But anyways, I have started reading The Eyes Are the Best Part, and I got to page 106 just while I was sitting in that coffee shop. I mean, granted, I was in there for probably like a little bit less than 2 hours, but oh my gosh, this has been so fascinating so far. Like so fascinating. It's kind of giving me 5-star energy so far. So this is a horror book that really intrigued me because I saw on the premise here, it says Crying in H Mart meets My Sister the Serial Killer, and it says it's a feminist psychological horror about the making of a serial killer from a Korean American perspective. And I thought that that just sounded so incredibly unique and so interesting. So I was really looking forward to this one. And so far, I'm just really loving the writing style in this. I'm already really connecting with the characters. I just think it's so interesting. But I do think this is definitely one of those horror novels that reads like such a slow burn. It really is like a slow unraveling of like this character slowly starting to lose her sanity. Even after 100 pages in, there isn't really a whole lot much that has happened yet necessarily in the plot. It's a lot of her just like getting like visions of like doing awful things, but so far nothing has really happened yet. But that doesn't even matter to me. Like, I love the vibes of this so much. I love the writing. I'm really invested in the characters already. And so in this story, we're following this young character named Ji-won, and her family is Korean. They're originally from Seoul and they ended up moving to California. And right at the start of this book, her family is kind of going through a rough period because their dad has just left their family. And their mom is not doing very well with the fact that their dad has recently left. She's actually struggling quite a bit, and it's taking quite a toll toll mentally on, you know, her and her sister. And so like one of the first scenes in this book is, you know, her mom trying to get the girls to eat the eyes of the fish that they're eating for dinner, because she's like, oh my god, don't you know the eyes are the best part? If you eat fish eyes, it's supposed to bring you good luck, supposedly. And she's like, we need all the good luck that we can get right now because your dad has left us. And she's like trying to get them to eat the eyeballs of the fish. And like, oh my gosh, it totally like sent me back to my trip to Japan with this, because on our final meal in Japan when I went there, they served us like a fish on the plate that had like the full, you know, eyeballs, face, like everything. And they were telling us that we should eat like the head of the fish. That would include like the eyeballs, the teeth, like everything. And I was like, I'm sorry, I can't do it. Like, I'm already not a fish person. Even eating the body of the fish sounds disgusting to me. So like the idea of actually eating the face and the eyeballs of this fish was not interesting to me. So I did not participate in that. But there were some people on our Japan trip who like, you know, just took a big old bite of the head, and I was like, oh my god. It really grossed me out, but it totally reminded me of that. And it's funny because it almost kind of like sparks this fascination with our main character in this book, where she kind of gets obsessed with the idea of eyeballs and like trying to eat eyeballs. And it's not long before the obsession is about eyeballs with fish, because it slowly starts to turn into an obsession with like human eyeballs. And now she's having these thoughts in her head where she's like, she's wondering if like the eye color would affect the taste of the eyeball, and you know, different like gross things like that. But the thing that I find really fascinating about this book is that right at the start, you know, the mother kind of has a conversation with her daughters about how she read this article that said like white men are more romantic or more considerate than Korean men. And she's kind of like, oh, I wish I never married your father, and I wish I waited around for a white man. And I'm like, first of all, that's hilarious, because I don't think that that's true at all, at least not in my experience with any white men. But it was really funny because then the story is about how their mother, like very shortly after their father has left them, within only 3 months, she's found this white man named George, and like they start to date each other, and George quickly becomes like a big part of their lives. And I feel like this book is just having so much commentary on how like white men are just like the fucking worst. Well, I mean, one major, you know, huge red flag right away is that the first time they meet George, they see that he has a brand new truck that's like in the parking lot of the restaurant where they're meeting him, and on his truck he has a sticker that says, I'm Republican because we can't all be on welfare. So like, yeah, that tells you everything you need to know about this man, right? But like, he's just that typical like white guy that just gives you the ick over and over again. He'll act like he knows Korean and that he's like so well cultured and he just like really appreciates the Asian culture, but then he'll like mispronounce the girls' names, and because he can't pronounce their names right, he'll give them nicknames like JH or JW, and then he'll still mix them up. His behavior is always so gross, like the way he just keeps fetishizing the Asian culture. He acts like he knows better than them because he's actually been to China. So he acts like he knows what good Chinese food should taste like. And it's creepy too, the way that he just always seems to be like watching these girls very closely. Like she always talks about how she can just like feel his eyes staring at her all the time, and I just hate that for her. But it's just lending even more to like this girl's obsession with like the eyeballs, like imagining that his eyes are always on her. I think this main protagonist that we're following, she is such a fascinating main character. Like I love being in her head because you can see how she's like slowly starting to kind of like lose her shit and go insane and just have all of these dark thoughts. Like, I don't know, being in her head has been so fascinating. She's just one of those characters who slowly start to become unhinged, and she's just really fun to follow. And I'm really connecting with the writing in this. I'm loving the commentary. I'm loving it so much. I'm only reading this physically, so I'm kind of sad that I don't have the audiobook to continue listening to while I'm driving, because I didn't even plan to stay in that coffee shop that long, but like I couldn't pull my eyes away from this. Like I didn't want to stop reading it, you know, like that's how good it is for me. And so like I don't want to jinx it because we're still so early in the book, but I do feel like this could be a 5-star read for me. I'm actually leaving the coffee shop now because I think I kind of wanted to check out a grocery store that's nearby, because since I'm down here in the area, you know, I don't come down here very often, and there's a Whole Foods that's like around the corner from here, and the Whole Foods, apparently, according to the internet, they might have these little acai bowls that I like to eat that my Safeway no longer carries back at home. So I'm going to try and find the acai bowls in this Whole Foods. I don't know, I haven't been in this Whole Foods before. I'm gonna head to the grocery store, and then I will update you with thoughts once I've read some more of this book, but it's going very well so far.
I'm a globetrotter. You and I 비교나 하지만 우리 너무 달라. We just different. 나 좀 봐라. 여자나 집이나 세차 나가신다 너무 빨라. I'm a globetrotter. You and I 비교나 하지만 우리 너무 달라. We just different. 나 좀 봐라. 여자나 집이나 세차 나가신다 너무 빨라. I'm a globetrotter. 지금부터 시작이야 한턱에 money calls 조직의 리듬이야 한턱에 money man the moves I've been killing it now 아직 랩이 미쳐버린 범인 아니니까 하더라봐 한 미래로 돌아가 한 doing it cause I'm fly now 비그러 더 알아 지까지 못하잖아 켜보지만 난 실력이 no visa 뉴욕에서 한국까지 everybody raving visa I'm balling out cause I'm a globetrotter.
Hello, how's it going? It is actually now the next afternoon. So like last night, some things came up and I wasn't able to read anymore last night, but I did end up going to Whole Foods and I was so excited because not only did they have the acai bowls that I really love, they had them there. So I bought an embarrassing amount. I bought like 7 of them. And then I also found some other things that I really loved. I mean, I was able to get some trail mix as well. I'm a huge trail mix girl. Dude, Whole Foods is so freaking expensive. Like, oh my God, people are not joking when they say that Whole Foods is like your whole paycheck. You know what I'm saying? Everything is just super overpriced there, but it was a really nice store. Like I would definitely go back there, but it is very overpriced. But anyways, I've just been sitting here in bed this afternoon reading more of The Eyes Are the Best Part. I am now 180 pages in and I am still loving this so much. I decided that I wanted to go back in and annotate this book because of how much I am loving it. And so I'm actually like using my highlighters again, and I made a little like key in the front of the book, and I'm using different highlighter colors to represent like different things that are happening in the book. Like anything with yellow I think is anything that's just like really interesting or like something that I want to come back to. The blue is for anything that's really sad, which there have been so many sad moments. Oh my God, I feel like this book is genuinely so sad. And then I also put green for any like gross or like good horror moments that I'm like, ugh, like anything that gives me the ick. I also put this orange highlighter for like any red flags. I literally put red flags or annoying behavior from men because holy shit, like not just this guy George, but there are other men in this book who are also just like giving such red flags. And then also the purple color I put is for our protagonist becoming more and more unhinged, because I feel like there's so many moments where it's just like kind of hinting at her like losing her sanity a little bit and she's becoming more and more unhinged. And so I wanted a specific color to kind of highlight those moments. And dude, it has been so much fun because I went back in and I annotated and highlighted like everything from the beginning. So that's been really fun. It's been a long time since I actually annotated a book with like my highlighters and stuff. I mean, usually these days when I've just been annotating books, I usually just use my pen and I like write in it. And then I also like to use, the tabs to like mark certain moments. But it's been such a long time since I've actually gone through a book and like used my highlighters in it. I feel like so oftentimes when I read books, I never want to use the highlighters like right away until I know that I'm loving it. Because, when I'm starting to read a book for the first time, like I don't know if I'm going to want to keep it on my shelf forever. Like what if it ends up being something I don't even enjoy? So like usually I hold off on annotating until I know that I'm really enjoying the book and that I'm probably going to end up giving this 5 stars. Like I feel in my bones that this book is going to be 5 stars. It is so good. It is so up my alley for like what I really like in horror, because I feel like the relationships in this book are so interesting. They're so well done. I love that we're following this protagonist who is slowly becoming so unhinged, and almost like rightfully so, for all of the stupid shit that's going on in her life that is so frustrating. Not only are the men in her life so disappointing and so frustrating, but she's also like having a hard time in school. Her friendships at the school are also like very interesting to read about. But I feel like our main protagonist, she's also just such an interesting character because she really like self-sabotages a lot of things for herself, and she like intentionally will bring harm to others, but like in a really interesting way. I don't know, like our protagonist is no angel either, but this book definitely has the like good for her kind of vibes going for it that I also really love in these kinds of books. And the kind of horror in this book has been so intense because it's definitely like body horror, but like to an extreme that I just find so disturbing. I mean, eyeballs in general, like the idea of like actually eating an eyeball, disgusting. And like the descriptions in this book have been so vivid. Like the descriptions are so intense. I feel like I am also experiencing it alongside her, like it's very intense in that way, but I'm loving it. Like I love horror that's disturbing in this way, but also has like a lot of really strong social commentary and has very interesting characters who are becoming unhinged. Like I'm just here for the vibes with this one. So I only have about 100 pages left. I think I'm just going to lay here in bed until I finish it.
Yeah, I'll be honest, 요준이 생각이 많아. It's dishonest to say that I've been feeling alive. 난 아니야, staying up in night all the time. 서 네가 필요 없다고 구차니난 거짓말. Now I'm sprung, running through my head. 네 옆에 말해줘, 시간 없다고 헐 때가 가라고. You ain't even gotta tell me twice, so you're fancy. Funny how you in my life. 그래 이젠 궁금하지 않아 우리 미래. Think about her, strip down, 혼내 이세. say driving on the wrong side down on the freeway frequent trips and frequently 기대 우리 컸던 점점 더 힘이 들던 think about our problems 점점 커져 친구 사이로 I know I told you we could be there 1, 2, 3 I ain't never offended that you left like that 있으면 우리 싸울 텐데 staying up at night 있어 보이기에 I don't really miss you talking like we're friends so 지난 척해 like a game but you're not even playing 연락하지 마 이름 보지 않게 I don't really need you all I need is you yeah all I need is you
Oh my gosh, I just finished reading The Eyes Are the Best Part. Dude, what the heck was this book? What the heck was this book? I think I have to give this 5 stars. Like, I loved this so much. It was my exact unique brand of weird that I like in my horror books. I think the only thing with this though is that like, I don't know if I would like recommend this book super widely because I feel like a lot of people are gonna read this and maybe not enjoy it or think like nothing really happens. I can see a lot of people reading this and saying like the horror in this book just isn't that big a part of the story. Like this is definitely one of those books where it's more of a character study, you know? It's more about the psychology and like what's going on in this main character's head and watching her like slowly unravel. This is definitely more one of those stories that's kind of like a revenge story, you know? It's about a character becoming so unhinged that they don't recognize themselves anymore. And it's also one of those books that has, you know, it's packed full with like some great social commentary, whether that's related to, you know, like feminism. I think there's a lot of feminist themes throughout this book, but there's also a lot of talk about racism in this book and like cultural appropriation and like tons of different discussions that could be had from this that I also really loved. Like I thought the social commentary in this book was done so well and I just really loved it. You know, something that's shocking though is at the very end of this book, when I read that last chapter, I was like, you've got to be kidding me. Like that's it? I feel like this is one of those rare times where I could have read another like 50 pages of this book, even up to 100 pages more, because it is kind of short, you know, it's only 277 pages and I feel like the last chapter is one of those chapters where like it just ends and it just kind of leaves you there. But there was one thing at the ending, like, oh my god, as far as the plot goes, there was a thing in the ending that I thought was just so freaking chef's kiss, like so perfect. I wouldn't say that the ending of this book is like super unpredictable, you know, because it's not. I think the ending is very predictable in a way, but it is still very satisfying to read in my opinion. And I think for sure, like the hardest thing to read about this book and like the grossest horror elements of this book are the thing with the eyeballs. You know, if the idea of eyeballs just in general make you squeamish, oh my gosh, this one will be a tough read because like the descriptions of the eyeballs and not just like the look and the feel of eyeballs, but like the taste of eyeball, oh my gosh, it was a lot. The idea of somebody like chewing on an eyeball and getting very descriptive language about it freaks you out, then I think this book would definitely freak you out. It definitely freaked me out. I love this. I don't know what else to say about it. I really loved it. I don't think this book is gonna work for everyone, and I cannot believe that this is a debut book. Like, excuse me, I'm gonna be reading everything that Monica Kim comes out with in the future because this was such a great debut. So I can't believe I found a 5-star, and it was kind of an unexpected 5-star, you know? I personally wasn't thinking that this book was going to be a 5-star when I picked it up, and so that's always so cool to find a new author that I can give 5 stars to. Like, that feels incredible. And I'm so glad that throughout this week I've gotten to so many books that I've been anticipating and that I actually found a new 5-star favorite. I mean, there was a few books I read in this vlog that I really enjoyed. We're not going to talk about the rom-commers. We're not going to talk about that. But I think overall this vlog was a, you know, huge success because I did end up finding a new all-time favorite. I feel like this book, it does have the potential for me to like be in my top 10 of the year. Like, I know that this is going to be a book that just sits in my subconscious, and I know I'm going to be thinking about this book a lot. So that is so exciting. Thank you so much for watching this video. You'll have to let me know if you've read any of the books that I read during this vlog. What did you think of them? And I will see you very soon with another video. Bye!
Always been a dreamer,